If you're one of the millions of developers using Google Cloud, something fundamental has just changed about your security. A practice that Google themselves told you was safe for over a decade could now be putting your private data and your company's money at serious risk. We're going to break down how this happened and, most importantly, what you can do about it right now. For more than 10 years, the official word from Google was crystal clear. Certain API keys, the ones for things like Google Maps, were not secrets. They said it was totally fine to just embed them right into your public websites. But with the launch of the Gemini AI API, well, that is now dangerously wrong. So here's the bottom line. A public key that was once just a harmless identifier can now act like a secret password. And this switch happens silently, without any big announcement. The very moment someone on your team enables the Gemini API, that old public Google Maps key you've had for years might have just been given the keys to the kingdom, your sensitive AI models, and all the data that goes with them. So how on earth did this happen? To really get it, we have to look at something security folks call retroactive privilege expansion. It sounds complicated, but it's just a fancy way of saying your old keys suddenly got a powerful and dangerous new set of permissions.
Now, it is absolutely crucial to understand that developers were not being careless here. Not at all. They were just following Google's direct, explicit instructions. I mean, the official Firebase security checklist literally says API keys are not secrets. The Google Maps documentation even showed you how to paste the T right into your website's code.
Let me just walk you through how this plays out. So first, a developer does exactly what they're told and puts a Maps key on a public website. No big deal. Then, maybe months or years later, somebody else in the company enables the new Gemini AI service for a totally different project. And boom. Just like that, without a single notification, that public key is now a powerful secret that can get into Gemini. To put this in really simple, real-world terms, imagine the key to your mailbox, the one that's just for letters, was suddenly changed so it could also unlock the front door to your entire house, and nobody bothered to tell you. That's exactly what happened here, just in the digital world. And that, of course, brings us to the real-world risk. What can a bad guy actually do if they find one of these keys just sitting out in the open in your website's code? Well, the attack is frighteningly simple. An attacker finds the key, and they can immediately start poking around your private data. We're talking any files or documents you've uploaded to Gemini. Or they could decide to run their own super expensive AI jobs, racking up thousands of dollars in charges on your credit card. Or maybe they just want to cause chaos and use up all your API limits, which would shut your own legitimate apps down completely. And please, don't think this is just some theoretical problem. It's not. Security researchers at Truffle Security did a scan of the public internet, and they found 2,863 live, vulnerable Google API keys that could be used to get into Gemini services right now. The companies caught up in this aren't just small projects either. We're talking about major financial institutions, security companies, huge global firms. And here's the real kicker. Even Google's own internal teams were caught in this trap. Which really proves the point, right? If the company that made the system can't avoid this flaw, how can they expect every single developer out there to catch it? So how did this whole thing even come to light? Let's get into the story of how it was discovered and what happened when Google was told about it.
The proof was just undeniable. It was the perfect smoking gun. The researchers found a Google API key on one of Google's very own public websites. And this key had been sitting there since 2023, way before Gemini was a thing. But when they tested it, that old, supposedly harmless key gave them full access to Google's internal Gemini models.
The disclosure timeline is pretty telling. When the researchers first reported this in November, Google's initial response was, basically, this is intended behavior. It was only after the researchers showed them how it worked, using Google's own keys on its own systems, that the issue was suddenly reclassified as a bug and taken seriously. So once the seriousness of the problem was finally understood, Google did put a plan in place to fix it. Let's take a look at what they're actually doing to solve this at the root. Okay, so here's their plan. From now on, new keys created for AI services will be locked down to just those services by default, which is great. They're also actively blocking known leaked keys from being able to access Gemini. And they say they're planning to start proactively warning people when their keys are found out in the open. These are all really good, meaningful steps forward. All right, now we've reached the most important part of this whole discussion. What you personally need to do right now to check if you're exposed and how to get your project secured. It's a pretty simple 3-step check. First, you need to go into every single one of your Google Cloud projects and just see if the generative language API is turned on. If the answer is yes, you go to step 2. Look at your API keys and find any that are marked as unrestricted. Then, for step 3, and this is the most critical part, you have to figure out if any of those unrestricted keys are public, anywhere, on a website, in a GitHub repo, anywhere on the internet. If you find a key that checks all 3 of those boxes, it's unrestricted, it's in a project with Gemini enabled, and it's exposed to the public, the solution is direct, and it's immediate. You have to rotate it. Deactivate that old key and generate a new one that's properly restricted. You know, this whole situation leaves every single person using Google Cloud with a really critical question they need to be asking themselves. You put those old keys out there years ago, and you were following the rules at the time. They're still out there, on the internet. The question is, do you have any idea what they unlock today?